In the middle of an ancient city of Jerusalem stands a church built upon an ancient tomb. This church is visited by over 1 million pilgrims every year as they seek to touch the grave where Jesus Christ once laid and attend the 1,200-year-old ritual of the Holy Fire. This is the Church of the Holy Sepulcher.
This is the Church of the Holy Sepulcher, built to what believed to be the place of Golgotha. Let's go inside.
A 4th century historian and a learned Christian, Eusebius of Caesarea, writes that in the 1st century, the Roman Emperor Hadrian attempted to hide and bury the tomb in which Jesus lay for 3 days by building a pagan temple of Venus on top of it. But then, 2 centuries later, the first Christian emperor, Constantine the Great, replaced the temple with a church, and during its construction, rediscovered the tomb. Today, the church stands in the middle of the old city of Jerusalem. And when you go inside, all the constructions, walls, and adornments make it almost impossible to imagine how it looked like during the times of Jesus. Because this place was outside the city walls. There were no constructions. It was just a rocky hill, which Romans used for crucifixion, with a garden and a burial cave nearby. So when Constantine built the Church of the Holy Sepulcher, he had to demolish part of the rock in order to fit the tomb inside the church. Over the past 17 centuries, the church was damaged many times by fires, wars, earthquakes, and a few occasional wrestling matches between the Greek and the Armenian priests. But it's still here, and it's visited by over 1 million pilgrims every year. Mainly because in addition to the historical records, there is also plenty of archaeological evidence. 2 of the most prominent ones are the split rock, that you can actually see through the display glass inside the church, and the burial bed inside the 18th century shrine called the Edicule. When most pilgrims enter the Edicule, they touch and kiss a marble slate, believing it is the burial bed of Jesus. However, what most don't know is that it dates back only to the 14th century, and not to the times of Jesus. So, to think of it, the only evidence that this was indeed the burial bed of Jesus comes from historical records and traditions. Until 2016, when an archeological team was given permission to lift the marble slate for the first time in centuries. When the slate was removed, to their astonishment, they found an older marble slab imprinted with a cross, and underneath it, the original limestone burial bed, dating back to the 1st century. There is another place that some archaeologists believe to be the tomb of Jesus. Just a few yards away, a place called the Garden Tomb. Found by a British soldier in the late 19th century, the evidence for this location is based on multiple archaeological discoveries. First, 2,000-year-old water cistern and a wine press, indicating that there had been a vineyard or a garden nearby. Second, a tomb dating to the times of Jesus that fits the description of the Gospel accounts. It has a shaft for a rolling stone with a metal pin embedded into the rock, which was used to seal it from rolling back. And third, a cliff right next to it, which at certain time of the day, when the shadow is right, resembles a skull. The Gospels record the name of the hill where Jesus was crucified as Calvary. Calvary is Latin for place of the skull. But the original Greek manuscripts mention the name in Aramaic as Golgotha, which derives from the Hebrew word Gulgolet, meaning a skull. So which one is the true location of the tomb of Jesus? I'd say 2,000 years later, it's hard to tell. And the truth is, it really does not matter. What matters is that Jesus is not there. You see, today we have multiple historical records of eyewitnesses and those who interviewed the eyewitnesses of the resurrection of Christ. 4 Gospels recording every detail of the event, writings of the disciples of Jesus that record the event, the Apostle Paul who speaks about 500 eyewitnesses of the resurrection, and if that is not enough, a renowned Jewish historian, Flavius Josephus, who lived in the same century as Jesus, confirms his resurrection, as he writes, "For he appeared to them on the 3rd day, living again, as the divine prophets foretold, along with myriad of other marvelous things concerning him." There is more reliable historical evidence to Jesus' life and resurrection than to Julius Caesar.
No way.
Isn't that mosaic? That's mosaic, right?
Yeah.
Join us next time as we explore one of the greatest excavations of all times, the ancient city of David.